Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man wala amma ba'd. So brothers and sisters, in this video, I'm going to give you a practical demonstration of all of the physical actions of Salah. So that's probably, a rakat and some other actions, basically a rakat of Salah and some other actions. It's not going to teach you all of the rules of Salah. That's not the intent of this video. For that, you're going to have to attend a course about the fiqh of Salah or read a book on the fiqh of Salah. This video will be included in my fiqh of Salah course called The Essential Guide to Salah, inshallah. So that's also an option for you. The intent here is to show all the correct physical motions according to the Hanafi madhhab, so that those who are studying the Hanafi fiqh of Salah can also have the actions demonstrated, or people who've read a book on it but aren't sure about exactly how the action should be, have seen people do it differently, can at least find out how it is correctly supposed to be done. So it's all about the physical actions. I'll mention other things, of course, as I go along, but the intent here is the physical actions of Salah. All of the actions, right from the beginning, step by step, and I'll explain the actions for men as well as the actions for women. So as a general principle, all of the actions of Salah are the same for men and women, except for certain differences that all ultimately are based on trying to make the physical movements of a woman more concealing for her, more conducive to modesty and concealment. That's the basic fundamentals, and we take this from the Sahaba and their transmission of the Salah of women. Okay, that is basically how it is. In most of the madhabs, there are some variations in the Salah of men and women. All right, so I'll go through it according to how it's done in the Hanafi madhab, inshallah. So when you start your Salah, there's a few things that are preconditions. These are fara'id, right? And then a few things that are obligatory inside of Salah. So these things, basically, if you don't meet the preconditions, your Salah hasn't even begun, right? You haven't even started praying. And then when you start your prayer, if you manage to start your prayer correctly, and then any of the arkan of Salah, any of the fundamental pillars of Salah, the fara'id of Salah, if you miss any of them, then your Salah is invalid. Right, so these are the most important things to learn. So it's not my intent to explain all of them, but the basic preconditions are things like your body has to be clean from any physical impurity, your clothes have to be clean of any physical impurity, your place of prayer has to be clean of physical impurity. You have to be in a state of major and minor ritual purity. That means that if you needed a fard bath, you've taken your fard bath. And you have wudu, the time for the particular fard prayer has to have entered, all right? And then, you have to be facing the qibla, right? So, for the sake of the filming, I'm facing a different direction, but you get the idea, right? So imagine I'm pretending I'm facing the qibla, and then you basically make your intention. So all of these things are kind of outside of the salah, and then you start the salah with the takbir. Okay? So moving into salah. The first thing is that your intention for salah, and then your takbir, when the takbir tahrima, as they call it, right, which is when you say Allahu Akbar and enter into salah, they have to be consecutive. You make the intention, you do the takbir tahrima. You can't do the intention 10 minutes earlier, have a chat with your mate, answer a phone call, and then come and say Allahu Akbar and start. Intention, takbir tahrima have to be together, all right? Your intention doesn't have to be verbal. It has to be in your mind, and you have to be conscious of which salah you're praying, whether you're praying by yourself or behind the imam. Basically, you've got to be conscious of what you're doing, all right? And that can be in your mind. If it helps you to verbalize, you want to be able to focus, and it helps you to verbalize, you can verbalize it in your own language. You can do it in Arabic, but only do it in Arabic if you know what you're saying, meaning if you actually know the meanings of the words. If you're just parroting words that you've memorized as a child, not a good idea, because that doesn't count, because you don't know what you're saying. So if you say words in Arabic, what you're saying doesn't count, what you're thinking is what counts, right? So therefore, you can simply, for example, imagine I'm praying Fajr, all right? So my intention, and I'm praying behind an imam, right? So my intention just needs to be, I can just, as I begin, I can be like, Fajr Fard, behind the imam. So kind of to myself, right? So basically what I'm whispering to myself is Fajr Fard, behind the imam. And that's, as long as I'm conscious of those things, right? That's it, my intention is done. And if all I have to really do is just think that, okay? So intention, Allahu Akbar. So I'm saying it aloud for the sake of teaching, but obviously you'll say aloud or quiet based on however you're praying. So once again, and this is how it's done for men. So so your intention is like Fajr Fard, Allahu Akbar. So notice what I've done, right? So the Takbir Tahrima, straight after the intention, my position, right? I'm facing the Qibla, feet are parallel. So feet are parallel, facing the Qibla, okay? And then as I go into the takbir, right, move your gaze to the place of your sujood, all right? So if I end up looking at the camera, that's not what then I'm just doing it to look at you, but it's supposed to be down at the place of sujood. So down at the place of sujood, right? And then Allahu Akbar, hands up to the level, thumbs up to the level of the earlobes, palms facing towards the Qibla, fingers natural, right? Natural, not spread, not completely closed, just natural, okay? And then I bring basically the hands down. I'll explain what happens when the hands come down. But once again, palms facing forward, the thumb level to the ears, so palms are towards the Qibla, right? Allahu Akbar, okay? So that's basically the Takbir Tahrima motion, okay? So this is how it is for men. This same action for women is, everything is the same, right? Except for women bring their hand up to here, up to their chest, level to their chest. Up to here, palms still facing the Qibla. All right? So that's the thing. Now, once we've done that, we've entered into Salah, and we go into the first obligation. So if you like, the Takbir Tahrima is an obligation of Salah. The scholars debate whether that's an internal or external. It's not relevant to us, it doesn't matter, it's a fard. Then we move into the first obligation, which is the Qiyam, which is the standing position, right? When we stand, what are the key things? So I've already mentioned that you look down at the position of sujood. Obviously, you're standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is a question of khushu', which is something you should also study. We have a course on that too, by the way. And the feet should be parallel. And the fuqaha say that the distance between the feet should be, there's three opinions in all four madhabs, right? They're either 4 fingers, which is the predominant view in the Hanafi madhab, 4 fingers apart. I personally don't find that very comfortable, right? I find that quite uncomfortable. 4 fingers apart for men and for women, okay? Or a hand span, roughly. You don't have to get a tape measure out. You don't have to measure every single time you stand in Salah, right? Like that. Or just natural, whatever feels natural, okay? And I personally, pray according to that. This is a flexible matter. It's not a fard or anything like that. So you can be relaxed about this and be flexible and take all of these positions as valid, right? And just pray as you feel comfortable, all right? So comfortable, a hand span, 4 fingers. These are the 3 opinions in all of the madhabs. In the Hanafi madhab, the fuqaha tend to generally mention the 4 fingers principle. Don't go less than that, okay? And if it's comfortable to be a little bit wider so that you feel natural, then that's also fine, okay? So that's basically how you stand. Yeah? Now, next is what happens after the Takbir Tahrima. So we've done the Takbir Tahrima. Next is where our hand ends up, right? Where our hand ends up, what we do with our hands and where they end up. So let me explain that first and then I'll do the full motion. So we do the Takbir Tahrima, Allahu Akbar. Then your hand's going to come down. As it comes down, you circle you circle your thumb and your little finger around your wrist, okay? the remaining three fingers fall over your forearm like that. Okay? So there is a kind of holding with two fingers and a placing over the forearm of three fingers. Okay? And then you let your hands fall and position themselves below the navel. This is how generally books of fiqh in the Hanafi madhhab say it should be done. Okay? Now, this is the sunnah. This is how the sunnah is interpreted in the Hanafi madhhab. There's some flexibility about this in the sense that in the hadiths, holding and placing is mentioned. And what the fuqaha have done with the two fingers holding and three fingers placing is they've combined both things from the hadith. So therefore, you can also do either or. You can also hold or kind of just place. Just put your hands over like that. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because many people do that. Many people just place or they hold, right? Or some people do that. You understand? And people get really, really fussy about it. It's like, oh, you're not doing it in this way. This is flexible, okay? So don't give people a hard time over this. So this is what the Hanafi fuqaha say it should be, but doing it like that and placing is also holding and placing, just placing like that normally is also valid. Okay, my fingers are like that because I have a watch on, so that's fine. So that's that, right? Now the next thing is about where the hands go. So in all of the madhabs there are different positions interpreted based on some variations in the hadiths. Okay, so bear in mind that people will pray differently. So some people will pray in between the chest and the belly button. So here, okay. Some people will place their hands on the chest. This is also a valid opinion. In the Hanafi madhab, it's the opinion that is transmitted is below the navel. This is also the opinion. One of the narrations in the Maliki madhab, this is also one of the positions in the Hanbali madhab as well. So it is quite a well-established position. But it is also valid if that's not comfortable, and I sometimes struggle with that if you have shorter arms, and a big torso, it can be quite hard to go all the way down there. If you have a big belly, that can be difficult. It's also fine to go, as far as your hand goes and falls comfortably. All right. So if this is more comfortable for you, you can do that. It's perfectly fine. And in fact, one of the contemporary Hanafi scholars, the Hanafi muhaddith Shaykh Nuruddin Itr, explains all of these positions and says that based on the various opinions or various ahadith in the Sunnah, it is also possible to interpret, and even according to Hanafi principles, it's possible to interpret all of the different variations by simply saying this is a flexible matter, and that all of these positions are valid. So whatever's comfortable, you can also do, inshallah, because not everybody can go all the way down there, because not everybody has a wonderful washboard, flat stomach, and exactly proportionate arms. All right, inshallah. So that's the positioning of the hand. So now let's do all of that. So Allahu Akbar. Okay? Now, that's for men. Okay? For women, it's a bit different. Again, remember, it's consistent with concealment and modesty. So essentially what happens in women's salah is there is a reduction of big movements, right? The movements are more, they're tighter, they're more compact, okay? So then what happens to the hand movement is a woman raises her hands to her chest, right? And then she doesn't have to go all the way down like that. All she does is just places the hands over each other on her chest. Can you see how the movement has become super compact for her, right? So she doesn't have to worry about getting the hands down and getting caught in her hijab and things like that, right? For her, it's just up to here and then onto her chest. Okay? So that's basically how it is for women. So that is the action as far as your standing position goes. Eyes remain to the place of sujood and so forth, right? Now, obviously, the rest of the rules of salah now apply. So once you've done that, now you're going to recite your thana, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika wa tabarak asmuka wa ta'ala jadduka wa la ilaha ghayruk. You're going to recite a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. You're going to recite the Fatiha, then bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Then you're going to recite a surah. Okay, there are rules associated with these that you need to study in the fiqh of salah. Okay, now generally when you pray, okay, now let's point out a few sort of things that people do wrong. Okay, so generally when you pray, wrong as in some of them are really bad, some of them are minor and so on. But let's just speak in general first, right? So first of all, standing like that, with your feet kind of facing east and west, or I don't know, whatever the direction is, but basically feet spread out like this. People kind of, be kind of in a slack position. You should try your best to stand straight. Unless you're really exhausted, like in a long salah or something, try not to rest on one foot and rest onto the other. I used to do that a lot when I was young, okay, trying to get rid of that habit. So try to avoid that. Try to stand straight all the way through. Always remember that you're standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fidgeting, too much movement should be avoided. Do you understand? And so on. Generally, avoid unnecessary movements. Anything that is necessary, you need to do, you can do, right? Obviously, there's more to this. That's not the point. But anything unnecessary, avoid it. Particularly unnecessary sounds. There's more tolerance in salah of minimal movements than minimal unnecessary movements than there is of minimal unnecessary sounds. If you deliberately unnecessarily cough or clear your throat, your salah will break. Okay, so things like that, bear that in mind. Obviously, there's more to this. Read the rules. I'm just touching on a few things that come to my mind practically right now. Okay, so now let's move on to the next big movement in salah, which is the ruku'. Okay, inshallah. So I've changed position a bit for ruku' now, right? So we're going to do ruku'. So in my masjid, I am now facing the qibla, basically. So for ruku', obviously you were standing like this. So let's go back to how we were. So you were standing like this. If you're a lady, then you were standing like this. Okay, but I'll demonstrate it for women as well, inshallah. So you're standing like this, and then you finish your surah. Okay. Once you finish your surah, you're now going to say the takbir and go into ruku'. Okay, so from the takbir onwards, I'll do the practical movement. Okay, so Allahu Akbar. Okay, so keep the movement nice and calm, nice and steady, not rushed. Okay, don't don't jerk and stuff like that. Nice and steady. Okay, so what you're in ruku', you're going down like that. Okay, going down, your hands over your knees, fingers spread out. Yeah, back, head, hips as level as you can make them, and your leg sort of vertical. Okay. All right. Now, eyes are here. Okay, your feet are still parallel from your standing position. Eyes are here in between your feet. That's your ruku'. Okay, subhanallah. I hope my back looks as flat as I just said it should be. All right, so Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, Subhana Rabbiyal Azim. With tasbih, 3 is your minimum sunnah, but you can go up. 3 is your minimum sunnah, but you can go up in odd numbers, 5, 7, and so on. So this is the ruku' position. Okay, so once more, from the standing position, Allahu Akbar. Okay, now, for ladies, they were in this position, right? Standing. And then from there, they got into ruku'. So once again, remember the principle of modesty, compact, more minimal movements, right? So a woman doesn't have to go all the way down like a man, and so on, right? She just has to go far down enough to touch her knees, okay? So this is how it looks. So eyes are down there, and then Allahu Akbar. Okay, just enough so nice and compact, just enough to touch her knees. You don't have to go all the way down and so on, because the further down you go, the more the physical shape of your body is expressed and exposed, right? So she just goes down there, and Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, Subhana Rabbiyal Azim. Okay? All right? Eyes in a similar way, just as far, towards your feet, basically. Okay, so again, from here, Allahu Akbar, Subhana Rabbi al-Azim, Subhana Rabbi al-Azim, Subhana Rabbi al-Azim. Okay, that's the ruku'. Right. So after the ruku', all right, you go up into a brief standing position called the qawma. Okay? Now, the qawma is going to be the same for men and for women. All right? So let's go from the ruku' and back up to the qawma. Okay? So Subhana Rabbi al-Azim, Subhana Rabbi al-Azim, Subhana Rabbi al-Azim, Sami'a Allahu liman hamida. So when you say Sami'a Allahu liman hamida, it's from the moment you start to move up, right? You say Sami'a Allahu liman hamida, and then you end you end it in your standing position, right? You stand with your hands to your side, eyes back down to the place of sujood, and here you say Rabbana lakal hamd or Rabbana wa lakal hamd. You can, any wordings in the Sunnah, Rabbana lakal hamd, Rabbana wa lakal hamd, hamdan kathiran tayyiban mubarakan fi. All of this is valid. Same for men and women. You just stand in this position, right? And then that's it. Yes, and then you go into the sujood. Okay? Now, the thing to point out in this position is don't rush it. This is one of the most common salah breaking, salah damaging mistakes that people make out of just nothing more than bad habit is in qawma, right? This is the easiest thing to get right. It is also the most common thing that people get wrong. And what they get wrong is they rush. Okay? So one of the things that's wajib in the Hanafi madhhab, obligatory pretty much across the board, is i'tidal, is to do your movements in a composed manner. And the specific definition is to rest your limbs into each position. To rest your limbs into each position. Now let me do it the wrong way, the way I observe a lot of people do it, and you tell me if my limbs have rested in that position. Okay? Whether you're a man or a woman. So Subhana Rabbi al-Azim, Subhana Rabbi al-Azim, Subhana Rabbi al-Azim, Sami'a Allahu liman hamida, Rabbana lakal hamd, Allahu Akbar. Right? Now you tell me if my limbs have rested. Okay? And I have even seen it go as bad as this, right? Subhana Rabbi al-Azim, Subhana Rabbi al-Azim, Subhana Rabbi al-Azim, Sami'a Allahu liman hamida, Rabbana lakal hamd, Allahu Akbar. Meaning that my man isn't even standing all the way up. Right? It literally, like, it's there, it's like still there, still semi-crouched, right? Still, and going down. So that violates the wajib of salah. Deliberately doing this would actually break your salah. If you were consciously and deliberately doing this, it would break your salah. If it was just a mistake, your bad habit, and so on and so forth, you missed the wajib. The reason why it's so dangerous is because, let's face it, how many people do this and realize they made a mistake? Nobody does this and rushes through it and then thinks, I've made a mistake, I have to do sajda sahw. Or I have to redeem that mistake somehow, or I have to repeat my salah. Nobody repeats the salah because of this. It's just a bad habit, and it violates salah. It goes against khushu' and so on. It goes against some key fundamental principles of salah. All right? So you have to be extra careful about i'tidal, about the composure principle, the wajib of composure in the short movements. Because in the long movements, you're always going to do the minimum because you've got things to do for a minute or two, right? Whereas in the short movements, you can get away with, not even saying anything. Like if you didn't say Rabbana lakal hamd, right? You still meet the requirements of salah because saying Rabbana lakal hamd is a sunnah. Saying Sami'a Allahu liman hamida is a sunnah. So if I was completely silent and I could potentially just do this, right? Subhan Rabbi al-Azim, Subhan Rabbi al-Azim. Or maybe if I didn't even say Subhan Rabbi al-Azim, I didn't know what to do, right? And I didn't say that. And I just went, you understand? That not saying those things wouldn't violate my salah, but the rush would violate it, right? So even if you're not saying anything, I'm not saying not to do that. I'm saying, imagine you didn't say anything, so therefore you could put, you don't need time because you're not saying anything. Composure on its own is still a requirement, right? So you still have to go as a minimum. That's the minimum. Okay? Right, so that's very important. Now, let's move on to, right, let's continue that. We had a bit of a disruption by that brother over there. All right, come on. So let's go back to, so we're in qawma now, right? So we've done our ruku, we're standing in between the ruku, and we've just said Rabbana lakal hamd. Men, women, it's the same, right? Now we're going to go into sujood, all right? Now with sujood, these are specifically described in the fiqh books, right? And some things are specifically mentioned in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Some of the details about salah are basically the fuqaha, kind of interpreting the hadith and filling in the obvious parts in between the parts that aren't mentioned in hadith. So I'm not going to go into all of that. That's not the point of this. Just look at the physical demonstration, right? So first and foremost, the order of the movement as you go into ruku is specifically described. There's some difference of opinion about this as well, by the way. So not everybody's going to do it the same. But here's how it goes. So let's do the physical demonstration first, right? Allahu Akbar. Now let me talk you through all of that. Okay, so first of all, you go down as straight as you can do, right? Some of my teachers used to say, collapse down completely straight like that, okay? That can be quite tough on your knees, especially at my age. It's already, my football battered knees would struggle with that. But the point is, try to stay as straight as you can rather than, like crawl down into sujood, right? Basically, stay as straight as you can, okay? Hands onto your knees, okay? So go down, hands on your knees down first. Okay, both knees down first. Then your hands where you're going to end up. Then your head in between your hands. Your fingers closed, pointing to the Qibla. Okay, now, my feet. Let's have a look at my feet. All right, so feet up like that. You have to do your sujood on your toes. This is very important. You must do your sujood on your toes. Men and women, you must do your sujood on your toes, some part of your toes, right? So this is a bad mistake. Okay? Not to engage your toes in sujood is a bad mistake. All right? This terrible mistake. These are specifically mentioned in the Sunnah that the ru'us of the feet, right? The toes of the feet are specifically mentioned. The knees are specifically mentioned. Both hands specifically mentioned, right? And the head is specifically mentioned, right? And both the head and the nose is intended. In the Hanafi madhhab, your forehead on the ground is fard. Your nose on the ground is a wajib, right? So we have to be mindful of all of these things. Okay, so here the common mistakes that people make is lifting feet, lifting feet, things like that. People doing things like this, not putting their toes down. These are all bad mistakes in sujood. Okay, bad mistakes. Doesn't seem like much, but going against the Prophet's own description of sujood, right? And these are considered the method of this aspect of the method of sujood falls into the obligation category. Now, the other one is lifting your nose up. You're in sujood, right? And then you do that. Okay? If you did that throughout the whole sujood, it's a big mistake. If you had your feet lifted throughout the whole sujood, big mistake. If it lifted up momentarily and went back down, lifted your nose up momentarily, went back down, inshallah, your salah is still valid. Okay? Just keep those things in mind when it comes to sujood. Now, men and women sujood, very different. So therefore, I'm going to demonstrate the women's one, but I'm not going to do it like perfectly because I'm really stiff. Okay, so let's do it, right? So women, when they go into sujood, so remember the principle of things are more compact, more conducive with concealment and modesty. Okay, so it's not, they're not as spread, right, as men. So one other thing I didn't point out actually. So what men do in sujood. So I focused on the feet and the forehead, didn't I? So in sujood, you got your hands here. You got your head in between your hands. I've mentioned the feet, right? Now, this space important. So you don't you don't close it too much, all right? So the basic description is that your thighs and your stomach should be separate. Thighs and your stomach should be separate. Your elbow should not touch the ground, okay? And your arm here, your arm and your sides are separated, okay? This is how you do it, okay? You can, there's space to go even wider and so on, and the fuqaha say that a small animal should be able to pass right through. That's in the men's sujood, okay? Now, see, that's what I meant by spread right now. In the women's sujood, it's the opposite. Everything is compact, okay? So, she's in her qawma, Rabbana lakal hamd, okay? Allahu Akbar. Now, at some level, so some ulama say that her feet should already be pointed to the right, but she should still have her toes on the ground like this, but she can have her feet pointed to the right to accommodate a more lower position, okay? A lower position, right? But if she doesn't do that, this is not very clear. If she doesn't do that, it's fine. So she can be like this. But the main principle is that with men it was keeping these parts separate. With women, it's together. All right, it's as crouched as they can go. Obviously, everybody can't do this optimally. So as much as you can do, as much as you can get compact and tight. So like this. So with men we said elbows not on the ground. With women, elbows on the ground. With men we said arms separated from the side. With women, it's arms close to the side, right? So as compact as you can go. Hands can be the same with your head in between your hands. And there you go. Okay? So some ulama will teach that the feet should be to the side here to allow for a more crouched position. This is easier for people who don't have weight. This is fine, but try to make sure that your toes you're still doing sujood on your toes, because that's an important element of the sujood. Okay, that's a woman's sujood. Now, this is of course, how the sunnah is interpreted for women. Okay, if you can't do that, then go as close as you can, right? And if you can't do it, that can be quite difficult, right? Because you have to be quite supple. So if you can't do that at all, and your sujood ends up very close to how a man's sajda is, so this is all you're doing, right? Your sajda is fine. Okay, so you don't have to beat yourself up about this and worry too much. Just go as close to that description as you can, right? But be comfortable in your sujood so that you can stay in sujood for as long as you need to. Okay, so if this is too comfortable and you're going to be struggling, you're going to be in pain or something because of stiffness or whatever it is, then go, spread yourself out more so that you are comfortable. This is fine. Okay, inshallah, that's very, very important. No need to struggle to get to that position. Even if you end up doing sujood like a man, this is permissible, and your salah is done, especially if you did it because you couldn't kind of compact yourself in that way. Okay, so that's the sujood for men and women. Okay, so I'm going to go back I'm going to show all of that in one movement. So men, Rabbana lakal hamd, Allahu Akbar. And for women, Rabbana lakal hamd, Allahu Akbar. That's as far as I can go, by the way. Okay? And then the next part, so I'm going to go from the male method of sujood to the next position, right? So the next position is the sitting position. One last thing about sujood, by the way, which is a minor detail, is keep your eyes down towards your nose in sujood. Okay? And the number of tasbih in sujood is the same as in ruku'. 3 is the sunnah minimum. It's sunnah anyway, the tasbih is sunnah. 3 is the sunnah minimum, and then you can go 5 and 7, and go up 5 and 7 to increase tasbih. You'll get more reward for it. Okay. After the sujood, so you're in this position. After the sujood, you sit briefly. This is called the jalsa. So remember, in every rak'ah there are two sajdas. Obviously, inshallah, everybody knows that there are two sujoods in every, two prostrations in every rak'ah, right? In between there is a small sitting called the jalsa. That's where we are now. So I've just done my sujood, Allahu Akbar, into the jalsa position. All right. Now, here I'm going to explain sitting. Yeah. So when you sit, so the first thing is your hands are on your thighs, but towards your knee. The end of your fingers, right there at the edge of your knee, right at the end of your thigh. Okay, fingers are normally spread out. Normally spread out. Normally, you don't have to go like that. Normally spread out. Okay. Eyes are into your lap, and your feet are like this. Okay, this is the best I can do. Some people can really stand it up. The description in the books is that when you sit, you flatten your left foot and then you sit on it. This is for men. Flatten your left foot and you sit on it, and you raise your right foot up in this way with your toes folded, pointing towards the Qibla. Okay, now I have a stiff toe from a dislocation, so I often can't hold this position for long, so I tend to, oh there you go, that's painful. I tend to bring this toe out like that. All right, but that's me. That's because of my problems, right? So these things are sunnah methods, and you can adjust. If you can't do it, and you had to sit like that, then it's fine. It's not an issue, but try your best to do it like that. Okay, this is how it is done. So you stand it up in that way as much as you can. Stand it up in that way, toes folded, so that as many of your toes as possible are facing the Qibla. That is the best way to do it. And if you practice this, if you've practiced it from childhood, it's easy. Unless you have some sort of an injury or something like me, then you won't have any issues, inshallah, doing that, right? So this is the sitting position.
Do you sit on your heel? Are you supposed to sit on your heel?
No. You sit on your left foot. Okay? So brother over there who is disturbing me constantly is asking, do you sit on your feet? As in, do you do that? Right? No. You sit. Specifically, the description is you. So if you watch me go into the sitting position from sujood, right? The left foot falls flat. Okay? I sit on the left foot. My left buttock is on my left foot. My right buttock is suspended. Yeah? And then I've got this foot standing in that way towards the Qibla. Eyes in the lap. Okay? So this is still jalsa position, but when you sit in tashahhud, it's the same. When you sit in tashahhud, it's the same. And in this position, I say a short dua. It's mustahab. Allahumma ighfirli warhamni wahdini wa'afini warzuqni. And then I go into another sujood. So this time I'm going in from this position. So my feet are already on the ground. I go from this position into the sujood. Allahu Akbar. Right? It's for the men. And then the only thing change that happens is if you look at my feet, my left foot has gone from the flat position to the standing position. Okay? All right? And back into this position for sujood. All right? Now, all of that is how it's done for men. Okay? Women sitting is slightly different. Right? And women do something known as tawarruk in Arabic. Okay? So what they basically do is, so they were in sujood like this, weren't they? Already, yeah? They were in sujood like this, right? Toes up a bit. Slightly to the side is fine, but on your toes, yeah? On your toes, or toes can be straight up as well. Yeah? Everything's flat, everything's compact. And then tawarruk, when they sit, let me show you first, right? So when they sit, it's Allahu Akbar. Right, so what's going on here, right? So tawarruk is when you know how in the men's position the left buttock sat on the left foot? In the tawarruk position, the left buttock sits on the floor. Okay? Sits on the floor, and then the feet come out towards the right, like that. You can see both my feet towards the right in that way. You don't have to stand the feet up, just like that. Okay? And of course, every position is as long as you can do it and it's comfortable. If it's not comfortable, then you make yourself as comfortable as you can. The point is, this is the optimal way to do it, tawarruk. Okay? This is the sitting position for women. Right? Hands on the thighs as usual. And this is how they will sit in tashahhud as well. Right? As in, when they sit to read al-tahiyyatu lillahi wa salawatu, whether it's the first one or the last one, this is how they sit. It's called tawarruk. Eyes in the lap, same as men. Okay, so this is sitting. But right now, we're not sitting for tashahhud, we're sitting in between the sujood, yes? So then, that then therefore concludes a full rak'ah. So one rak'ah of salah, or one unit of salah is after the takbir tahrima. So takbir tahrima is what brings you into the salah. And then then a full unit is the standing and everything that's involved in that. The ruku, the qawma, and two sajdas with that sitting in between. Okay? Now, here, the thing to be mindful of, very important, similar to what I showed you in the qawma, is because this is a short movement with a dua in between that a lot of people don't know. This is also one of those positions where people violate i'tidal. They break i'tidal for whatever reason. Some people do it because of discomfort, some people do it out of rushing, some people just do it because it's just bad habit from the youth and so on. But basically what people do is they don't compose themselves into the sitting position in between. Okay, so they go into sujood. Subhana Rabbi al-A'la, Subhana Rabbi al-A'la, Subhana Rabbi al-A'la, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Okay, so they have not allowed their limbs to compose themselves in the sitting position. This is a violation of i'tidal, very bad, right? This actually breaks a wajib in your salah. So once again, let me demonstrate. This is one of the most commonly made mistakes in salah. Okay, so sujood. Subhana Rabbi al-A'la, Subhana Rabbi al-A'la, Subhana Rabbi al-A'la, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. This rush violates a wajib of salah. And actually, if it was a mistake that you became conscious of later, you should repeat your salah. All right? The problem with this, of course, with this mistake is that nobody knows they're making a mistake because it's just bad habit. It's a terrible mistake, okay? You need to eliminate this if you're making this mistake. And there's another really, really dangerous dimension to this, and that is that when you do your first sujood does not complete until you have risen past halfway. Okay, so look, this is your sujood. Now you're rising up from sujood, right? You have not finished your sajda yet. Here, sajda is not finished. Sujood is not finished. Here's not finished. Until I'm past halfway, closer to the sitting position, which is about here, right? My sujood has now concluded, i.e. the fard of sajda is now complete. The next thing is to sit and compose myself into the sitting position. That is now wajib. There's two elements to this. I have with my own eyes seen people do this. You understand? And so therefore it's like, did they complete the sajda or not is doubtful. Okay? So be careful with that. And some people do it because, I've seen one person, they actually physically struggle with the movements. So they feel like it's just convenient to get up as much as they can, and just get their hands to their thighs somehow and then go all the way down. They need to just slow it down a bit and get all the way up, okay? And then compose themselves in that position. So the minimum is this. Even if you don't read the dua, which is a sunnah, your salah won't be harmed, okay? In the sense that you won't get full reward, but there's no damage is done to your salah. So the minimum should be this. So allow a second to compose your limbs. So it's the composure of the limbs in that position, or the settling of the limbs in that position, and then down. Okay? That's your full rak'ah. Okay, inshallah. All right. The next thing I want to show now, we're going to jump a little bit. So you've done one rak'ah, second rak'ah will be the same. Okay? After the second rak'ah's second sajda, the second unit's second sajda, you're going to sit in tashahhud. Okay? So now we're in the second rak'ah, second sajda, Subhana Rabbi al-A'la, Subhana Rabbi al-A'la, Subhana Rabbi al-A'la, then we're going to sit in tashahhud, right? So, Allahu Akbar, At-tahiyyatu lillahi wa salawatu wa tayyibat. Yes? Now here there is one more physical movement. So you need to learn the rules of salah, learn the du'as of salah. That's not what I'm teaching you right now, the physical movement. There's one more physical movement. In at-tahiyyatu, when we say the shahada, or according to in all of the different madhabs, at various positions there is an indication with the finger in various different ways. I don't want to get into the difference of opinion. I'll just show you how it's done in the Hanafi madhab, right? Basically, all of this is based on how the same set of ahadith are interpreted and understood, right? So basically in the Hanafi madhab, your hands start off like this. Just focus on my hands, right? Hands start off like this. So loosely open, normally open, basically not exaggerated, but normally open. And you read your tashahhud. So let me read the tashahhud and then focus on my right hand. Okay. التحيات لله والصلوات والطيبات السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. So, right, you got that? So now, this movement, what did I just do? So first it's flat. Then when I say ashhadu Allah, that la is a negation. There is no. At the la, the finger rises, right? And the finger rises like this. These two fingers tuck in. These two fingers tuck in. Small finger, ring finger, tucks in. These two fingers form a circle, okay? So, you understand? So, okay, this is the movement. So, and then the finger goes up, La ilaha illallah, comes back down at illallah. So let's do it again. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. And then stays like this for the rest of your sitting. Stays like this. So these two tucked in, these two forming a ring. This one dropped. So both of this is possible. It can be dropped all the way down, or it can just be suspended a little bit up like that. This is all fine, and it stays like that until the end. So in the tashahhud, there is this one other physical movement. Okay, and that's it. So now we move on to the end of the salah. Okay, there's as far as I can think, there's no other physical movement, right? So we're now our fingers like this. We're in tashahhud. After the tashahhud, we say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, the durood or the salah ala nabi, and then Allahumma barik ala Muhammad. Right, both of these are sunnah. And then right at the end to do some dua is sunnah. اللهم إني ظلمت نفسي ظلما كثيرا ولا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت فاغفر لي مغفرة من عندك وارحمني إنك أنت الغفور الرحيم is what's commonly taught in this position. It's a beautiful dua. You should make sure you know it and read it. And you can read other duas as well. This is a bit that sometimes people don't know. So here you can read ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة and so on. And if you're on your own praying, you can extend that for as long as you want. Read as many du'as as you want, as long as you read du'as from the Quran and the Sunnah. All right, and you don't make up your own stuff. All right, so after you've finished, you do your salam, okay? And the salam is Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, okay? And for women, it's the same. You're in this position, you're in that tawarruk position, and you say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, okay? Now, the only thing to mention here from a physical movement perspective is that your salam should be all the way until the people behind, if somebody was behind you, they could see your cheek. Okay? And eyes on your shoulder. All right? And some people say that eyes on your shoulder and then a glance outwards. And the reason for that is it sort of reflects if you're in a congregation, if you're in congregation. So if you're in a congregation, when you make salam, it's Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and you make intentions. So if the imam is over there, I'm on the left side of the imam, then with my right salam, in my salam I make a mental intention that I'm saying salam to the imam, to the rest of the congregation, and to angels and jinn in presence. All right? Same with my left salam, but because I don't have the imam towards my left, I don't intend the imam and so on. That's all part of consciousness in salah. I mean, how many of us do this stuff and don't just say assalamu alaikum and don't think about it, and we're worried about what do I do next? Run off, to my next appointment. Does that make you understand what I'm saying?
Some people roll their head.
Yeah. No need. Yeah. So some people do roll their head. You're right. Some people they do that. Actually, that's true. It's very true. No, it's just like that. All right.
Some people try
Okay.
to look at the...
Yeah, and also there's no, nothing has to be drooped. There's no drooping. There's none of that. There's no crouching. There's no drooping. You're straight in your salah all the way through. Okay. So, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And if you're in congregation, you can have a slight glance up. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Okay. All right. Otherwise, on your own and stuff, you keep your eyes there. Keep your eyes there. Okay. That's your salam. And coming back to the drooping thing, right? Like even when you do takbir tahrima, right? Allahu Akbar, right? The fuqaha say don't droop your head. Don't droop your head to meet your hands. Stay straight. Stay straight, right? It's your eyes that go down. You don't droop and hunch and stuff like that. You keep yourself straight, straight, good posture, eyes down. Okay, so sitting, eyes down into your lap. Standing, eyes down towards the place of sujood. All right, you don't crouch. Don't do this stuff. Don't hunch. Don't crouch. There's no humility in that. There's no added meaning of humility or anything. Stand straight. And the fuqaha have specifically said, have discouraged kind of going down like that, because this is not transmitted anywhere. Okay, in fact, that's one of the makruhat of salah. It's actually makruh to do things like that. Okay, so those are all of the physical movements of salah. Okay, inshallah. So remember, you still have to study all of the rules. You have to learn the fiqh of salah, but this is so that you know how to do the physical movements correctly. Okay, inshallah.
What about standing back up? I saw when you showed how to go back down.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good point.
Standing back up.
Okay, so when you are in your first rak'ah, all right, and you're in sujood. Subhana Rabbi al-A'la, Subhana Rabbi al-A'la, Subhana Rabbi al-A'la. Obviously, when you go from sujood and you sit, we know how that's done, right? Yeah? What if you have to stand up from sujood? So you say, Subhana Rabbi al-A'la, Subhana Rabbi al-A'la, Subhana Rabbi al-A'la. Here, you go up in reverse order of the way you went down, right? So forehead up, nose up, hands up, back onto your thighs, and then up like that. Okay? So you're in reverse of how you went down. If you can't do that physically, then obviously you can adjust however you need to. Having said that, remember that there's a difference of opinion in this. According to some of the other fuqaha, it's hands that go down first, right? It's hands, then knees, right, and so on. So therefore, there's a difference. There is some difference of opinion. The point isn't for you to do it differently. The point is to accommodate the people who are doing it differently and not to get obsessive about correcting them. Oh, I just learned from Shaykh Shams that this is how it's done. You're doing it incorrectly. No, there's difference of opinion in some of the movements. Let people do it how they do it, right? But if somebody's clearly supposed to be doing it in this way and they're making silly mistakes, then you can obviously share your knowledge and correct them. But the most important mistakes in salah are really not the precise physical movements. This is so that your salah is optimal. The most common mistakes in salah are violation of i'tidal, right? Like rushing through things. Okay, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. So the thing for you to do is, if you're thinking, oh my God, there's so much to learn about salah, yes, you should think that. Study the fiqh of salah, and you can basically study on demand on the Mawarid Lifestyle website, and the course is called The Essential Guide to Salah, all right, which will go through all of the rules of salah in detail, inshallah, and obviously you'll see this practical demo as a part of it as well. Jazakumullah khairan. Hope you enjoyed that and benefited from it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.